You got the thing you said you wanted for a long time, and for about 3 weeks it felt exactly like you thought it would. Then it just became part of your life, and you started thinking about the next thing. You didn't plan for that to happen, it just did. Think about the last time you crossed a line you had been pointing toward for months. Maybe it was a number in your account. Maybe it was the title on a business card. Maybe it was the apartment, the square footage, the neighborhood you had been watching from a distance. Maybe it was the car, or the first time a purchase you had calculated for years didn't require calculation anymore. Whatever it was, you had been building toward it for long enough that it had become part of how you described your own future. Once I get there, when that finally happens, at that point things will feel different. And then it happened. And for a while, it did feel different. Not dramatically, not the way you imagined it would feel the first time you pictured it, but something shifted. There was a real satisfaction, a real sense of having moved. And then, without noticing exactly when, it stopped feeling new. It just became where you were. There is something worth sitting with before moving past it. You did not misidentify the feeling. It was real when it arrived. The satisfaction was genuine. The sense of having arrived was not invented. The 3 weeks, or the month, or however long it was for you, that was real. You were not fooling yourself. Something genuinely shifted. This is important to understand before going further, because what comes next is not about whether the feeling was real. It was. It is about what happened to it, and why it has happened before, and why it will happen again. There is a version of this experience with income. You remember the number that once seemed like the answer, not the first number you ever made, a specific number, the one that, when you were making less, represented the threshold, the point at which the pressure would finally release. You crossed it. The pressure did release, for a while. Then the pressure returned, at the same intensity, pointed at a new number, and the old number, the one that once seemed like the answer, became the floor, the minimum, the thing you could not imagine falling below, not the destination anymore, the baseline. And the next destination carried the same weight the previous one had carried, the same promise, the same shape of certainty. That number, that's the one. There is a version of this with a home, the one you moved into that was better than where you had been. The first time you walked through it, something was different. You noticed things about the space, the light at a certain time of day, the way certain rooms felt in the morning, small details that registered as meaningful. That specific awareness lasted maybe a year, maybe less. After that, it became where you lived, familiar, expected. The same things that had once registered as significant began to disappear from perception entirely, not because they changed, because you did. And if someone had asked you during that first month whether you thought you would ever stop noticing those things, you probably would have said no. You would have said this one is different, that you would always appreciate this one, that you had worked too long for it to ever take it for granted. And then you did, not out of ingratitude, out of adaptation. The mind adapted. That is what it does. There is a version with status, the moment you were recognized for something you had spent years building toward, the promotion, the title, the public acknowledgement that came with a weight to it. You remember how it felt to finally be seen that way. And you remember, if you are honest about it, how quickly that feeling dissolved into the ordinary pressure of needing to maintain what you had reached. The arrival became a new starting point. The recognition became an expectation. The thing that was supposed to represent the end of a particular kind of effort became simply the level at which the effort now had to continue. And eventually, the pressure to move further began to feel exactly like the pressure to get there in the first place. Same weight, different direction. None of this makes you different. None of this makes you broken. None of this means the achievements weren't real. It means something more specific. It means your mind was doing exactly what it was built to do. The mind does not hold a level of experience as exceptional indefinitely. It adjusts. Whatever is consistent becomes the new normal. This is not a flaw. This is how the mind works. It recalibrates the baseline so that it can continue monitoring for changes, for threats, for what is new, for what requires attention. An experience that once felt remarkable eventually stops requiring attention, and the mind moves on. It was never trying to withhold the feeling you were waiting for. It was doing its job. The problem is that you were building a financial and psychological plan around a feeling that the mind was never going to hold still. This is the part that becomes harder to look at when you take it all the way. The goal was not really the goal. The goal was the feeling you believed the goal would deliver, not permanently. You never said permanently. You said finally, once I finally, when I finally. The word finally implies an ending, a place from which you stop moving in that particular direction, a place where a specific kind of pressure goes quiet. And the pressure did go quiet for a while. Then something recalibrated, and the quiet became background noise, and the pressure returned in a new shape, aimed at a new target, and the cycle restarted. Not because you failed, because the mind adapted. This pattern has a shape. You attach a specific emotional promise to a specific future achievement. The achievement arrives. The promise appears to be delivered. For a period of time, it is. Then adaptation begins. The experience becomes familiar. The familiar becomes ordinary. The ordinary stops producing the feeling. A new target appears, one that carries a similar promise, and the movement restarts. The cycle does not reset because you lack discipline. The cycle resets because the mind was never designed to arrive. It was designed to move. Movement was survival. Arrival was never the objective, not at the level where these mechanisms operate. Think about how early this started, not in your financial life, in your entire life. The thing you wanted at 10 that you believed would change everything. The toy that occupied your thinking for weeks before you had it. And then you had it, and you played with it. And then you did not play with it. Not because something was wrong with you, because the mind had already moved on. The thing became familiar. A new thing became significant. Think about the version of this that happened at 15, at 20. At whatever age you first started attaching these promises to things that cost real money, real years, real decisions made inside a long-term plan. The mechanism has been running your entire life. The targets just got larger. The time between the wanting and the having grew from weeks to years. But the end of the cycle, the adaptation, the baseline reset, the appearance of the next target, has always looked exactly the same. The part that is hardest to sit with is not the cycle itself. The hardest part is what the cycle costs, outside of the numbers. Think about how much of your present experience has been spent in a future moment that has not arrived yet, not planning for it, living there emotionally, measuring your current life against a version of your life that exists somewhere ahead. The house is slightly better than this one. The income is slightly more than this one. The recognition is slightly more confirmed than it is right now. The account has a little more cushion than it currently has. And from that slightly improved position, you will feel something you do not quite feel yet. Not dramatically different, just enough. How much of the last 5 years was lived in that just ahead position? How many mornings started with a background awareness that today was still not quite the version of today that the plan was aimed at? The work was real. The progress was real. The effort over those years was real. And it produced real things. Real changes in circumstance. Real movement from one position to another. This is not a story about wasted effort. It is a story about what happened to the feeling while the effort was succeeding. The feeling never fully caught up. Not because the achievements were insufficient, because the horizon kept moving at the same speed you were walking toward it. Every time you gained ground, the horizon gained ground. And you kept walking, not because you were deceived, because the mind is designed to keep you walking. Walking was survival. Standing still was not. There is something specific that happens to the identity when this pattern runs long enough. At some point, the movement itself becomes the familiar thing. The pursuit becomes the baseline. The version of yourself that is always slightly ahead of where you are, working toward the next level, becomes who you are. And the version of yourself who simply exists in what has been built starts to feel unfamiliar. Not wrong, unfamiliar. As if arrival would require becoming someone slightly different than who you have been for a long time. And so the arrival gets deferred, not consciously, not as a decision. Just, there is always something that needs to happen first. One more thing, one more level, one more confirmation that what was built is real enough to stop and live inside. There are people who have reached every target they set in their 20s and 30s. The income, the home, the career, position, the financial stability that was once a dream and is now simply a fact. And they are still pointing at something ahead, still describing a future version of their life as the real one, the one where things will finally feel right, not because they are ungrateful, not because they are incapable of appreciating what they built, because the mind adapted and kept moving, and the identity adapted with it, and the movement became the most familiar thing about them. Think about what you were planning for 10 years ago, the version of your life that, if you could reach it, would represent arrival. Look at where you are now. For many people reading this, you are standing inside a version of your life that would have looked like arrival to the person you were then. The account balance, the professional position, the life circumstances, the things you were once not sure you would get, and you are reading this from inside that life thinking about what comes next. Not because what came before was insufficient, because the mind adapted, and when it adapted, the next thing appeared, just like it always has. This is not comfortable to look at. It is not supposed to be. But notice, this is not an accusation. This is not a character flaw. This is not a failure of discipline or gratitude or emotional intelligence. This is a description of a mechanism that runs in most people, a mechanism that was useful in a world where the problem was survival, in a world where the problem is meaning over decades. It runs differently. It runs expensive, not just financially, experientially. You have gotten things you once believed would change how you feel. Some of them did change how you felt, for a while, then you adapted, and the next thing appeared. This is the pattern. It has a name. The name does not make it stop, but it makes it visible, and visible is different from invisible. Invisible, the pattern runs, the cycle completes, the next target appears, and you keep walking toward a horizon that keeps moving, without ever asking what you are actually walking toward, or what you are walking away from, or when you decided that standing inside what you built was not a legitimate place to be. Visible, you at least know what you are looking at when you feel the cycle begin again. You know what that feeling is. You know where it leads. You know what it costs to keep walking toward it without asking what you are actually chasing. You got what you said you wanted, and for a while, it felt exactly like you thought it would. Then it became part of your life, and you started thinking about the next thing. That is not a failure. That is the pattern. And the pattern was always there, running beneath every target, every arrival that became a starting point, every feeling that faded into the baseline. You just didn't have a name for it yet, and now you do. That doesn't stop it, but it changes what you're looking at when it starts again.